Milik Hockey is your leading provider in ball hockey equipment and proud sponsor of the National Ball Hockey League. Milik has been around for 50 plus years, pioneering the sport of off-ice hockey, creating the iconic orange ball, which is the most used and recognized ball around the world. Milik's 811 and 814 hockey nets are the perfect tool to help hone your skills at home. The 811 is a full-size regulation steel goal, while the 814 is a little smaller at 52 inches for the younger players. Both are steel and durable, and if taken care of properly, will last you for years. To check out the 811 and the 814 nets and all the other products Milik has to offer, head over to Milik.com and use promo code CommisChat at checkout for 15% off. Once again, that's promo code CommisChat, COMMISHCHAT, at checkout for 15% off.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Commish Chat podcast, the official podcast of the National Ball Hockey League. I'm Anthony San Rocco, NBHL Commissioner, joined by Gianni San Rocco and TJ Janis, taking you all through the NBHL. And it's heating up. It's getting busy. Playoff push is here. Milik Cup teams are starting to qualify left and right, and it's getting fun. Gee, TJ, how we doing?
Doing great. Yeah, as you said, playoffs are here. This past weekend was just electric across the league, I feel like. Everyone's getting into playoffs, regular seasons finishing up, and of course, here in New Jersey, it was the first week of playoffs, so we got our taste of it locally. So it's a good weekend.
Yeah, same. Gianni, the NBHL official manager, doing great. Gianni, the NBHL player and goaltender, not doing too great, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I say it was not great for the Tortugas, but we'll get to that. But yeah, before we get into any teams or anything, just want to talk about Draftville again. Registration's going to open up Tuesday at 1 o'clock p.m. We will post the link right at 1. Everybody will have the same, opportunity to sign up, but 1 p.m. Tuesday, we're limiting our registration to a certain number of people just because it's only 2 rinks. We can only fit so many in there, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to, as we said before, it's going to be this draft tournament format. So everybody's signing up on their own. You're not signing up with a team. You're not signing up with a group. You're just signed up as an individual player. Any player from any tier, tier 1, the women's tier, tier 2, tier 3, can play in this tournament. We'll have a draft before the event. And then you see who you're going to play with. You show up, you get jerseys. We'll, have a big draft party Friday night. We'll have some events planned throughout the weekend. And yeah, it's going to be something different. It's going to be fun. And I've been surveying some people since we announced it, and the response has been pretty good. Like, people are really excited for it. And it sounds like, I don't know, most people that have the ability to go are going to be going or are trying to. I have someone who reached out and told me they already booked hotels. I'm like, you literally can't have signed up yet. So
yeah, there's a chance that guy's not getting in.
Yeah, very, very confident in his availability Tuesday at 1 p.m. I guess. So
yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And Tuesday 1 p.m. Don't miss it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about that is just you have to be an NBHL player to participate. So just keep that in mind. It's limited to NBHLers only.
Yep. And Draftville, first of hopefully many, more destinations in the future, but our first non-Milik Cup tournament is going to be one to remember. So with that, Milik Cup transition into, we've got 5 more teams who have qualified for the Milik Cup. We now have 8 total teams who have earned their spot. We talked about the Seattle Cold Snacks, talked about Long Island Sound, we talked about Long Island Ball Hockey Team, and we've got 2 more Tier 2 teams joining them. First one is the Orlando Mutiny in Florida Tier 2. They are the first Florida team to make it to the Milik Cup. We touched on this a little bit last pod, but last year we had Atlanta that made the trip from Florida. They won that division, but they did not play in the division this year. So this Orlando team, they beat Tampa 7-0 in the final. They took it to them. They were fired up. They beat them, I think, 2 or 3 times on the year, so they won the unofficial best-of-3 series against them, and they have bragging rights for a year that I'm sure will be... there's a lot of trash talking in that division, and I'm sure they will not let people forget that they won this division. But they're a really, really good team. They're a very confident team. They are ready to come up here and run. They've got, I think, their entire roster coming to the Milik Cup, and they've got a lot of Northeast transplants down there. They've got, Blake Fiandaca, McKenna, Kilcourse, Giraldi, Silo from Long Island that all, played ball hockey in the Northeast, are now down in Florida. They've got some Canadians, Leo Riston, who plays goalie for them. So, and then they got a mix of guys from Florida. So they're just a really good team. I think if you were to call Toasty, who's their captain right now, and ask him how you think they're going to do, he would say they're going to go 6-0 and mercy everyone. He's just fired up. I don't think he'd actually say that, but they're confident, and it'll be fun to see them up here. They're a really good team.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool to see, the Northeast guys come back this way to play ball hockey. Like, I haven't seen some of those guys in a while, so that'll be interesting to see them playing for a Florida team, to say the least.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing the top end Florida talent that they have come out and play. Like, it's not a traditional hockey market, but the Florida teams in the NHL are doing really good right now, and it's getting people down in Florida fired up for hockey. And I'm happy to see that translating to some on the rink production.
Yeah, they're like I said, they're fired up. They're gonna be awesome. And then joining them in tier 2 is the Bay Area Bashers coming back. Play the Orange County Wolves again in the California tier 2 finals. They beat them 4-0, second straight year. Back-to-back champs. And we did it on the Twitch live stream, and it's interesting. They interview their captain at the end of the show, Joey Delgado, and Memory Video Production, to do a good job. And basically says, year 1 in California, they lost in the final. So year 2, they were like, we just want to win. Winning California is our goal. And they did that. And then they came to the Miley Cup, but they came a little shorthanded. So they didn't do as well there as they would have liked to. They finished 4th on Saturday, but then Sunday they got beat in the first round by the Militia, which is a pretty tough draw from the number 4 spot. But so this year, I think they came to the mentality of, all right, let's prioritize this Miley Cup weekend, make sure everyone's available and we can go. And they've essentially their entire roster coming to New Jersey. And this is a team that went undefeated this year. They didn't lose once. They had an overtime win. Otherwise, they won their other 9 games in regulation. And I mean, I've spoken about it before, but this team is so good. Like, these guys are really, really, really good. They are the real deal, and it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform with the full roster, because I mean, they're not used to playing on deck really. They play on a blacktop out in San Francisco in California tier 2, but a full squad Bashers is going to be fun to watch. It's going to be really cool.
Excited to have them out to the Miley Cup, and I think a lot of people were excited to just see the Cali team come out and compete, and they were a little shorthanded, so I'm even more excited to see them this year with a full squad and see what damage they can do in Marlton.
And joining the Bashers in New Jersey will be their tier 3 affiliate. Even though we don't have official affiliates, they're basically their affiliate.
It's my favorite team in the league,
Bay Area Burger Boys. They're coming back. They beat similar story. They played the Shiners again for the second year in the finals in a row, and they beat them 1-0. These guys were ranked number 1 in our power rankings. They went undefeated. I think their goal differential was close to plus 40. They had a very, very dominant season, and they made some big pickups in the offseason. I know Jordan Pransky, Jack Liakos, who are on their team. Jack, I don't even know if I'm saying his last name right. But I played when I lived in San Francisco. I played on my my Bash team with them, and they're awesome. They're really good players. So huge additions for them. I know Jordan had 11 points this year in 8 games, so or 7 games. So he had a really good season. But they're coming back for some revenge. I think they lost in the semifinals in overtime to the Queen City Crowns, and the Crowns obviously went on to win the entire Tier 3 Cup. So they were close. They were very close. And, I think they feel like they have some business to take care of. So they got essentially their full roster coming again too, which is great. And I know the big difference a big difference in California this year is in prior years they finished up in early to mid August, whereas this year we finish now late July. So it gives them a little more time to plan ahead, plan travel. Flights are a little cheaper that far out, so it'll be a little easier for them to get here, and hopefully less expensive. And we'll see. They were, number one in the power rankings for a reason. We've seen a lot of this team, and they've got talent all the way up and down, and they're going to be good, just like the Bachelors. We've got two California teams that have very real shots of winning this thing.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. They beat the Shiners again for the second straight year, but last year the Shiners actually came to the Milet Cup because the Cold Snacks did not attend. So I don't know how the Shiners feel, but I guess they can't really be that mad. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years in a row, the same thing. Shiners are a really good team. I mean, they played them very well.
Yeah, 1-0 game's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their goalie, Devin Chiro, is like, he played out all season. He played goalie in the playoffs and was lights out. Yeah.
Wow, what a transition.
Player. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, what a switch up.
Yeah.
What if you did that, G?
I was gonna say, catch me at the starting winger for the Toogs next year till playoffs come.
No, we would get mercied. Yeah, actually, yeah, we'll put you out. We'll put me in that, G. That would be terrible.
Oh yeah. Do you remember that we did that for that one novice tournament? I played out, you played goalie. It was fun, but I wouldn't want to do it in a more competitive league like the NBHL.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my last. I haven't put on the pads, I don't think ever really before that or after. And
I think I put on the pads once for the Dogs in the EBHL 4-on-4 league. Like, they didn't have a goalie, and I literally let up like 8 in like a minute, I think.
That's good for the EBHL 4-on-4.
Yeah, right? I think we got mercied.
Yeah. What else? And then, so also tier 3, we've got the Red River Rougarou. They won Texas, kind of a back-to-back. I mean, they're essentially the Red River hot sauce from last year with like a handful of players that are different. So this team, they came to the Milet Cup last year and they finished in 4th. They lost, I think they lost to the Mud Dogs, the Pottstown Mud Dogs in the semifinals.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're another team. They based a lot of their roster on making it to the Milet Cup. They've got almost their whole team coming. They played Colorado Massive in the final. Massive got to the final. I wouldn't say completely controversially, but they were playing the Marksmen. There was a goal that depends on who you ask. It was definitely a goal. Depends on who you ask. It definitely wasn't a goal. They end up winning that game. The Massive end up winning that game over the Marksmen. They get to the finals. They lose 4-1, but commendable, impressive start for them to be flying in from Colorado to play in Texas and get all the way to the final. I know they had some injuries and, just travel. I mean, it's asking a lot to travel that far. So they did it and they made it, which is oddly enough both California teams too, the Bay Area teams, they do that as well. But Red River, they are awesome. Josh Lodato, who's there, he's led that division in points 2 out of 3 years. And I hope some, A teams take a look at him because I think he is like the real deal. Like their first line is a very, very high skilled, like high caliber line that I want to see him live to see what level they could play at. But I think Lodato is like a legitimate A player. He's special. So, but the team up and down, I mean, they've got 2 goalies. They're both awesome. They've got some big bodies. They've got some fast bodies. They're a good team. Louisiana's got some good ball hockey.
And 2 goalies is pretty key for a tournament like the Milet Cup. It's exhausting playing in these weekend-long tournaments. And if you can have 2 goalies that are rotating in and out, that you can trust both of them to play games, it's going to go a long ways when you go to those final games and your goalie only has 2 games of legs under him.
Yeah, and I mean, we have rules now for Milet Cup too. I'm not sure how much people read our actual rules that we have, but you can bring a second goalie if you only have 1 rostered, but it's not the same as having 2 rostered goalies. Like 2 rostered goalies, any goalie can play whatever game. Whereas if you bring someone who's a non-rostered goalie, you're pretty restricted on how often and when they can play. But it's at least an opportunity to give your starter a breather because it's been hot at the Miley Cup the past 2 years. I'm assuming it'll be the same, and it does matter. Having to always is it's a game changer for sure. But yeah, Rougarou coming back, I guess we'll say, and they had a really good season. I think they lost one game in Texas all year, so it'll be cool to have them back. And then the last of the teams that have qualified since our last podcast is the Boston Rattlers. They played the Massacre in the finals. They beat them 2-0. They're a veteran team, a bunch of guys who've been around the sport for a long time. They move the ball very well. I would say speed is not their strong suit. They're just a hockey sense team. They know where to be. They know where to put the ball, and they're going to outsmart some teams there. And they have a handful of players who actually played in the Tier 2 Miley Cup last year for the Mill City Warriors. The Warriors in Mass Tier 2 made some changes to their roster, and some guys ended up on this squad. And Steve, who runs the Warriors, is on this team as well. So they've got they've got an understanding of the Miley Cup. They're a veteran team. This is, they've played in tournaments for a long time, and they're going to be good. They're physical, and they swept that final 2-0. First one they won in overtime. Second game they kind of took it to them. I think they won like 6-1 maybe. But yeah, good old Stribe and Dave Norton. First year is a success running their division. They did an awesome job. And Rattlers will be the first team to represent Boston at the Miley Cup.
Yeah, it's nice to add another team with to the Tier 3 pile here at the Miley Cup. Just adding more teams to the division will just make it more competitive and honestly entertaining for everyone involved. So good stuff out of Stribe and Nordy getting that division up and running, and glad it worked out.
Because last year at the Miley Cup, we had only 5 teams in Tier 3.
Yeah.
We had the Berserkers in Philadelphia. They came in second place, play a game to even out the schedule for us, and they actually won that game. But only 5 teams were actually competing in Tier 3, whereas this year it'll be 9. So, essentially doubling the pool of teams. So,
more the merrier.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so congrats, Orlando Mutiny, Bay Area Bashers, Bay Area Burger Boys, Red River Rougarou, Boston Rattlers, winning it all, coming to the Miley Cup. We can't wait to see you guys here, and it's going to be fun. Congrats. And guess now we'll step into the playoffs because almost everybody's in the playoffs at this point. We got a few that aren't, a few that are about to start them, but starting Buffalo Tier 1, which the opening round was outrageous because we've seen the 7-1 Sixers sweep the first round both years in 2021 and 2022. And this year they played the Nickel City Smoke and lost 1-0 in overtime to them. I don't know that the Smoke have beaten the 7-1 Sixers. I could be wrong about that, but if that's their first win against them, that's a hell of a way to get it. And then in the other game, the 2-3 matchup, Rose City has been in second place essentially the entire season. Like they've pretty much had it locked up. And the Daredevils have been in the 3 seed, and the Daredevils beat Rose City in double overtime 4-3. So wild start there. They have a huge gap. They have games 2 and 3 are the same weekend, but that's not till the first weekend in August, I believe. So they got a little bit of time, but we spoke about it before, how Buffalo Tier 1, like all these games are 1-goal games and anybody can win. And then now we're in the playoffs and we've got the back-to-back defending champion, 1 loss away from being knocked out. So we'll see. But yeah,
because they didn't play this weekend, right? And geez, they got a whole nother week to wait on. That's quite the gap between a game 1 and game 2, I'll say. So
a lot of time to think about that loss.
Yeah, we'll see who benefits from that.
that
I guess.
You want to talk about New Jersey Tier 1G or no?
I guess we'll start with the downfall of the Tortugas. Just tough overtime loss to start it out. I thought we felt really good during the game, and just once it hits overtime, any play can do it, and it was pretty quick. They came down the rink on their first rush and just found a guy open in the slot and buried it, and it was a dagger. And we came out. I felt like we still looked pretty solid in game 2, but we weren't quite, we didn't have enough to take us all the way. We ended up falling in regulation, and season's over.
Yeah, shout out Night's Watch. They
Oh God, they're so good.
they're awesome. They are like
They
I don't
are
know.
a team.
They are getting hot at the right time. Like they ended their season awesome, and then there's no like really matchups that you can take advantage of with that team. Like the whole team is just up and down, just extremely strong. They've got Salvi and net, Nick Salvatore, who's one of the best in New Jersey, if not all of Tier 1. He's amazing. And
Definitely the best graphic designing goalie in the league as well.
yeah. The Night's Watch graphics have been getting pumped out the past week have been nothing
Yeah.
short of just
I'm
beautiful.
assuming he's doing Majestic too. I don't
Yeah,
know,
he's doing
but-
and Code Red.
Yeah, and Code Red. Wow, he's got a full plate of graphics.
Yes, he does. So Night's Watch, they're going to play the Dogs in the semifinals, and this would not be the first time they've matched up. They matched up in 2021, and TJ, you were on the Dogs at this point,
Yeah,
and went to Game 3, went to overtime, and Captain America, Captain Team USA, John Ruiz took a slap shot from the half wall and won it for him. So they've had some tough battles between the Dogs and Night's Watch, and this will be more of the same. It's going to be a fun one, and I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday.
yeah. These two semifinals are just going to be nuts.
And then,
Super excited.
TJ, you want to talk about the Caribou a little bit here?
Yeah, we played the Top Guns. Who what did they finish second?
No, they were fifth.
Oh, fifth.
Yeah, you guys are 4-5 matchup.
Yeah. Sorry. So Top Guns, but they were hot early in the season, and then actually we opened up the season Caribou and lost to them 4-0. So when
Yeah.
you saw this matchup, it was like, okay, here we go. We got to lock in, boys. And honestly, I think we did just that. Came out really hot. I think we scored a few minutes into the first period of the first game, and kind of the rest was history. It felt like I don't know if they were off their game or we were just on our game, but it just felt like a different game from early on in the season. And I think we won 4-0 and 5-2 in those games, so it was kind of substantial. And then we actually had a backup goalie or replacement goalie play, Cole, his name was, and he did really well for us. Pitched a shutout, and I don't know. The boys were happy, and we're just looking forward to the Hawks now, which is the tougher matchup.
Yeah,
of
the
course.
annual Hawks Caribou semifinal matchup.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that will be fun.
Oh,
That will
TJ,
be
you forgot
fun.
about the best part of the series.
Oh yeah, I did score my first goal of the season, but more the playoffs.
You're a playoff
Well,
performer. Regular
I'm a
season doesn't
playoff
matter.
performer. I
Yeah.
was just waiting. Went for when it mattered. It was the game winner, first goal of the second game, so I'll take it. Great pass from Marchese on a 2-on-1. So, look for it in the highlights. It was nasty.
And I do want to shout out the Top Guns because
Yeah.
I definitely see, and everyone listening, prepare yourselves because I will make this speech more than once on this podcast as the season progresses. But I think we see some resistance from people that want to hop up into Tier 1, whether they're too young or inexperienced or they're not sure if they can compete. This Top Guns team is a bunch of players that are young. They're 16 to their oldest players, 19. They jumped right into Tier 1 and they competed with these established teams. They beat these established teams. And pretty much after their first game, everybody was like, oh, this Top Guns team is legit. And I already have heard some players are picking up for next year. Might be tampering. We'll rule on that later. But they're going to get even better and they will continue to be one of the best teams in Tier 1. So take that leap into Tier 1 if you're up in the air. If you think your team can compete, try it for a year. And this is one of these teams that we weren't sure what to expect this year, and they came in and I feel like I guess they did surprise us. I don't think we expected them to be as good as they were, just because everybody's so established, and they
Just like a new generation.
yeah
kinda,
they
just-
they are an extremely respected group, and they earned it. They were awesome this year. So shout out to Top Guns, and let's get some teams moving up, even Tier 3 to Tier 2. Just take the jump, see if you can move up, and just improve your game. That's what it's about. It's just continuing to get better. So yeah, so this weekend we got Knights Watch Dogs, Caribou Hawks. Should be fun. Buffalo Tier 2. The Mob got the 3 seed, and they matched up versus the defending runner-up Queen City Ronin from last year, and they beat them to advance from the wild card round to the semifinals, and they got matched up with the Grim City Reapers, the Reapers, and Reapers beat them 5-2. The Reapers team is just they're good. They're a very, very strong, young, fast team. They're made some big adjustments in the offseason, got a lot better. So they're up 1-0 in that series over the Mob. And the Predators, they were the 5 seed. They were matched up against the Queen City Squids, which I would have really liked if the Squids got to the Milat Cup just because they have like the sickest jerseys in the league. But they didn't make it. They lost to the Predators, and then Wherret beat the Predators 1-0 in game 1 of that series. So like we said with Buffalo Tier 1, they got a couple weeks off in between, but this Buffalo Tier 2 and Buffalo Tier 1, go watch the highlights because, and again, we've talked about this before, but the amount of people at these games and the crowd reactions to goals is insane. Yeah. There are so many people at these games, and they're so intense. Teams have mascots.
Yeah, I think we talked about the mascots last time, but I even saw more of them on video, so just insane at a Buffalo. Love it.
Now, in Chicago Tier 2, we had the semifinals one of the semifinals with the Snipers and the Stingrays. And the Snipers came into the playoffs undefeated, hadn't lost all year. They win game 1. Then the Stingrays beat them in game 2 to force a game 3, which is the first loss Snipers have had all season. And Snipers end up winning game 3, advancing to the finals. Then we have the other semifinal where we got the Rats and the Raiders. And the Raiders won game 1. Game 2, they lose in overtime. It was that Eddie Urban slap shot we posted was the game winner. Then game 3, the Rats win in double overtime. So 2 overtime wins for the Rats to advance to the finals. So in the same day, they have the finals against the Snipers, and then they beat the Snipers 1-0. So now they're up 1-0. And it shouldn't be that surprising. Like, the Rats have Eddie Urban and a lot, almost all Chicago Southsiders who won that division the past 2 years, minus a couple of their bigger goal scorers, but they're showing up when it counts. I think they only had I think they had less than 5 wins during the regular season.
I was going to say that to me, it seemed like they were struggling all regular season, and then come playoff time, maybe they had more people show up or, just locked in, and it seems like it worked out.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened with the Southsiders too last year, because the first year I think they went 9-1 or 8-1, and then the second year they were losing some more games, and I was like, what's going on here? But they were having some just attendance issues during the season. And I think that's what happened with the Rats too, is they weren't showing up with full teams, and now it's the playoffs. Everybody's showing up again, and they're doing what they do. So shout out to the Rats and the Raiders. This is the first time they haven't been in the finals, because they had lost to the Southsiders in the finals the first 2 years, and now they lost to the Rats in the semifinals. So they lost to the same group essentially 3 years in a row. So that's got to feel pretty tough for them. But
I was just looking at their record. They went 2-1, 2-3. So that's I don't know, not what I expected, I guess, from the Rats coming into the season.
So so now the Snipers, they've lost 2 of their last 3 after winning their first 8. I guess if you include the first playoff game too, their first 9.
Plus the playoffs. Yeah.
So we'll see. They're on their heels. We'll see how they adjust. Their coach Gabe Barrera I wish he was able to play. He has an injury, he can't play, but I'm sure he'll adjust and they'll do well, but I don't know. Rats are going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to be a tough team to beat twice in a row, especially if it's on the same day, which I believe it is. It's a doubleheader. So, Mass Tier 2, we've got the Vengeance beat the Thunder Ducks in the 4-5 matchup to advance to the semifinals versus the number 1 ranked A-Town Tropics, and then the Tropics in game 1 mercied them. On the official score sheet, it's 8-0, but I think it was actually 9-0. They beat them, so they really took it to the Vengeance. The Tropics have been off for a little bit from just end of the regular season, some rainouts, and then having a bye. So I think they had some pent up energy ready to go. And I mean, you can't ask for a better playoff game than mercying a team that is the 4 seed. Like, and I think the Vengeance just gave them like a 1-goal game at the end of the season. Like, it wasn't like they were blowing them out in the season either. They just Tropics are ready.
Yeah, sometimes you hear some of these teams that have those big breaks like after the regular season because of rainouts and weeks off, and they come out kind of flat in the playoffs. So to be able to have a game like that right out of the gate, like that they're ready for the action.
And then on the other side of that bracket, the Mill City Warriors, they beat the Maulers to advance to the semifinals. And then, and as we know, Mill City Warriors, they performed well in the playoffs. They won it all last year. And then they advanced to play the number 2 seeded Norsemen. You've been waiting just like the Tropics were. And they beat them 3-2 in game 1. So now the Warriors are up 1-0, and we're, a couple wins away from a Warriors Tropics rematch in the final, as we saw last year. But, still, Vengeance, Norsemen, both extremely good teams. Norsemen finished in second for a reason, so we'll see how those games 2 and 3 play out. But Warriors pulling off the upset in game 1, which is, they've come a long way from dropping their first 2 games of the season till now. They've really gotten it together and are playing some good hockey at the right time. And then now we're in the quarterfinals of the playoffs in South Jersey Tier 2. Where wild card round, we saw the South Jersey Jays beat the Mays Landing Mojo. Then they go as the 7 seed against the South Jersey Space Pirates and beat them 2-1 in the opening game, which was
big win for the Jays.
Huge upset.
Yeah.
And a big game from Nick McCleary too. He had a lot of really stellar saves to keep them in that, against teams like the Space Pirates, you're going to get peppered, and McCleary stood tall.
Yeah, the Space Pirates last year lost their first game of the playoffs too to the Camden County Cobras. So they've been in this spot before, and they ended up winning the division last year. So obviously we're not counting them out. But the Jays gave them a run in the regular season too. They went to a shootout versus the Jays. So they're just they got their number.
Yeah.
So yeah, Space Pirates won the regular season one, but
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that was good for the Jays. Space Pirates, they got some work to do, but they know, they're aware, and that team don't quit. They're one of the most passionate teams in the league. And in the other wild card game, we saw the Knights beat the Soul. Good season for the Soul, young team, first year in the league. I thought they played pretty well. Sneaking into the playoffs was a great way for them to end it, even though they didn't win a playoff game. I'm just happy that they even got that far. And the Knights went on to play the Majestic in game 1 of the quarterfinals. Majestic, number 1 seed. And they lost to them. So Majestic are up 1-0 there. The other 2 quarterfinals, we got the number 3 seed, Maple Shade Chiefs, the Tier 2 Mila Cup runner-up, and the Tier 2 South Jersey runner-up from last year. They're up 1-0 on this loss. And then the other semifinal or quarterfinal is the Monroe Storm. They're up 1-0 on the Atlantic City Chimney Fish, who are the 5 seed. So it's going to be good hockey this weekend. I can't wait. We've got the 2-3 games. So if teams force a game 3, we got game 3 the same day, and we'll see who gets to that semifinal round in South Jersey. But it should be fun. It should be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I feel like we could come out of this weekend with any combination of 4 teams left in it. I think any of the series can go either way.
Yeah.
And then the other division deep in their playoff run here is DC Tier 2. And we've got Plague vs. Sparks. Last year we saw Plague vs. Sparks. Year 1 we saw Plague vs. Sparks. And they came into the playoffs as the 3 and 4 seeds. The Hayes and Gladiators were 1-2. And the Plague, we posted the game winner. It was Sean Joyce. They went to double overtime versus the Hayes, and they took a shot, and it bounced off the boards, took a weird bounce, and he was a little like maybe a step above the goal line and just kind of ripped one in top shelf. And they sally hard. They're going, that's a team that I think is pretty pissed off. They didn't win it last year, so they want to get back this for the season, and now they've got to play the same Sparks team that they lost to last year. And the Sparks, I think, similar story to the Rats, where they didn't have the best commitment during the season. Now they got everybody showing up at the right time, and they won game 3, 5-0. It was pretty decisive. And next weekend, now we've got games 1 and 2 in DC. So familiar teams with each other. They've been in this position not only in the NBHL, but in other DC leagues and seasons that they've had. So it'll be a fun one to watch. They're teams that, it's not bad blood. It's very, they seem very respectful of each other, and it's just going to be some good, hard-fought hockey games. So be fun to watch there. And then we've got some upcoming playoffs. Mass Tier 1 kicks off this weekend. They've got all 6 teams making the playoffs this year. The Owls ended up getting the number 1 seed. And the Stars could have had the number 1 seed. They pretty much controlled their own destiny here. And they had the Classics in their last game of the regular season, who were the last place team, and they were winless. And the Classics beat them. And they got their first win of the season, kept the Stars from the number 1 seed. Nice little upset to, cap off the Classic season, give them some momentum going into the playoffs. And now the Stars have to sit a week and, sit with that loss, I guess. Now we're left with the Seabass as a 3 seed. They're going to play the Classics. And we got the Blackhawks versus the Terriers. Blackhawks are the 4 seed, Terriers are the 5 seed. But the Terriers just beat the Blackhawks a couple weeks ago. So those teams, I believe their season series is 1-1. And again, they're going to be some really good teams. Blackhawks, they're defending champions of the division, but last year they were the number 4 seed and they won the division. So it looks pretty familiar from how everything panned out last year. But again, we'll see how these games play out. And we've got games 1 and 2 this weekend, games 1 and 2. And if it goes to a game 3, that'll start the following. So that'll go the following into game 1 of the semifinals. But Mass Tier 1, those guys are intense, and these games are going to be intense. So looking forward to it, and it's going to be fun. Then upcoming, they just finished their regular season, is DC Women's Tier. Their playoffs aren't until August 12th. But the DC Divas, they got the number 1 seed, but it's interesting because they got the number 1 seed with 6 wins. And the Lady Bing Blossoms, they had 8 wins, but they're going to get the number 2 seed. Because the Divas won all their games in regulation, and the Blossoms won 4 games in overtime. So they, overtime or a shootout, so they get less points for that, obviously. And that dropped them 1 point below the Divas. So this is the only division where that has happened. And that's an extreme example. That's a very extreme example. But Divas have the 1 seed. Lady Bing Blossoms have the 2, and it's a quick playoff. It's just, semifinal, final. And I think they're doing actually a consolation game in that division, which I don't think we've ever had.
Might be the first in NBHL history.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard that word when it comes to the NBHL.
Yeah, they had
Smart.
It's 9-10 are the first 2 games. They have an 11 o'clock consolation game, and then the finals is right after that. So that's cool. I'm glad they get to play some extra hockey. And we'll see if the Lady Bing Blossoms want to finish some games in regulation or make the overtime. The playoffs go to overtime too. They seem to like going to overtime. But yeah, they're the only women's tier that's actually finished because Philly women's, they've had some rainouts that have kind of pushed them back. Mass women's, they're in the same situation. They've had some rainouts that have pushed them back. Pittsburgh women's, they're just on the Pittsburgh timeline. That's just a little back from everybody else. So they're all finishing up over the next couple weekends. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I think they all finish up. I'm wrong again. So Jersey, Philly finishes up this weekend. Pittsburgh finishes up this weekend. Then Mass Women's finishes up the following weekend. So they're all towards the end of their season right now. I'll dive into the regular seasons when we get to that part. But moving on, other upcoming playoffs are Philly Tier 2. We talked about this. Their playoffs are on August 5th. And then they go again the next weekend to August 12th. It's a single elimination all the way up until the finals. And the finals is a best of 3 series. The Purge, they're the number 1 spot there. They've had a really good season. Philly Heat are the defending champions who have been given the Purge. They've had some great games against them, and they're number 2 right now. So that's a very, very competitive tier 2. And Purge at number 1 doesn't mean a ton, honestly, because any of those teams can win it. Carolina tier 3, their playoffs are this upcoming weekend. The Rally Squad, the top seed. They're another one, same format as Philly. They're single elimination until the finals, and the finals are best of 3. Obviously, the Queen City Crowns are in that division, defending Miley Cup tier 3 champs, who just put on a show for us on the live stream a couple weeks ago. And I know they want to come win again, so we'll see what happens there. Indiana tier 3, they're this weekend. The Columbus Counts have been a force in that division. They are 10-0. They've had games have been getting closer as the season's progressed, but they're still winning them all. And I think it's safe to say it's their division to lose. But these other teams have been getting better throughout the season, and once playoffs get here, anything can really happen. And Saturday we'll know who's winning that division by towards the end of the night, and have the first representative from Indiana at the Miley Cup. It'd be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting for sure. Looking forward to seeing them come out to Marlton and take their shot at the tier 3 title. Another additional division that will enter that tournament.
And speaking of first time Miley Cup champions, is Maryland tier 3. They've got their playoffs coming up on August 5th. Single elimination, only 3 teams. Ogopogos, who have been the number 1 team all season long, they've got the bye, and they'll play the winner of the Blazers and Hedgehogs, and another one that'll have a first-time team at the Miley Cup. Although there are some players like I know Chris Thorpe, who runs that division. He played on the Sparks last year at the Miley Cup, so he has some Miley Cup experience. But yeah, again, another first time Miley Cup team or division. And Philly tier 3, their playoffs are set. There's same format as Philly tier 2, where it's single elimination to the finals, which are best of 3. Jersey Dinos are the number 1 seed. They had 9 wins on the year. The South Philly Moonshiners, they also had 9 wins on the year. That's a strong tier 3, and luckily for that tier, I guess, they have 2 teams that go to the Miley Cup. They're the only tier 3 that will have 2 teams at the Miley Cup, because they have 10. And the runner-up obviously is going to get a significantly less favorable schedule at the Miley Cup, but they'll at least be there and have their shot to win it all. So another one that's competitive. There's a lot of there's some bad blood in that division, and looking forward to it, honestly. But besides that, we've got regular season finishing up in a few with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh tier 1. They've got another weekend of games. The Imperium and Showstoppers, or I should say Showstoppers and Imperium, are 1-2 right now, with the Showstoppers at the 1 spot. The Pioneers has jumped up to the number 4 spot, beating the Warbirds last week. Battalion are in the number 5, Warbirds are number 3, and only the top 4 make the playoffs, so they're kind of battling for that last spot right now over the next couple games that they have left. Pittsburgh tier 2, the Nighthawks, they've won. They went 0-5 to start the season. They've won 3 of their last 4, including just beating the Militia, the number 1 seed, to keep their playoff hopes alive. If they don't win that game, I think they still would have had an outside chance of making the playoffs, but this gives them a much better chance to make the playoffs with winning that game. And that was pretty significant upset. So they're in.
Don't see many teams turn it around like that, ever, honestly. Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah, especially at this time of the year. Their last 2 games, they had the Militia, who they just beat, and then they lost to the Bantams 3-0. So they're playing some pretty good hockey at the right time, and
against good teams too.
If you end up being the 1 or 2 seed in Pittsburgh and get matched up with a team that's as hot as them right now, I don't think that's a very much of a reward from finishing that high in the season.
Yeah.
And then Pittsburgh women's, we have the Malevolence. They got their first win of the season. So shout out to them. Pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not they haven't been getting blown out either. They've been close games. And the interview with Corey Hirsch coming up, we talk about that. He says that the Pittsburgh women's tier has been super close all season, and it's kind of crazy they just got their first one. But they got their first win. And then the Riddlers and Mad Hatters, they played for the battle for the 1 spot, and they went to a shootout, and the Riddlers won it. So they have a 1-point lead in first place right now. So there, all 4 teams will make the playoffs. So, they have another weekend of games, and that'll finalize the seeding and whatnot. But, yeah, all 4 teams are in. And, the Steel City Snipes, who we have not mentioned, they are, defending runner-up. They're the number 3 spot right there in that division. Mass Women's, they had another weekend of games last weekend. And low-scoring games, like we always tend to see there. 4 of the 5 games were 1-goal games. 1 game was a 2-goal game. The Blazers hopped up to the number 1 spot. I think the defending champion Wild are in last place in that division right now. They're, they got the work cut out for them, but they're getting close to the end. And New Jersey Philly Women's, their last one is this weekend, as we just discussed a couple seconds ago. And the Cavalry, they're undefeated. They're 8-0 right now. And we also had shout out Chelsea Monahan return from injury. She had a pretty nasty fall on the opening weekend of the season, and she messed up her knee and I think her shoulder on the same play.
Elbow, I think.
Oh, that's right, elbow. Yeah, duh. And she's back, and she looked great. She had a bunch of points yesterday on Sunday, and they're just waiting for the last weekend of games till they get to the playoffs. But we posted a goal from their division the other day. It was
the shootout
Joanna
goal.
Persiano. Yeah, it was nasty. Some quick hands. And then who else we got? Oh, last one is New England Tier 2. So their last weekend's this weekend. Chargers and Minutemen both have a chance at the number 1 spot. They've exchanged some wins this year, and they play this last weekend too. So that should determine who gets the top spot there with the defending champion Chargers. So a lot of games left, a lot of hockey left. We've got 29 teams still left to qualify for the Milec Cup, but we're getting close. And this next podcast after this one, I think, will be pretty much just rattling off information about Milec Cup teams, because there's going to be a lot of them. But yeah, with that, we'll get to our interview with Corey Hirsch of USA Ball Hockey and a million different other things. It's one of our longer interviews, but it goes into a lot of depth about USA Ball Hockey, some Pittsburgh stuff, and just the sport in general. So it's a great interview. And here it is, Corey Hirsch.
Integral Hockey Stick Sales and Repair has been providing ice hockey and ball hockey players with the best quality hockey sticks at bargain prices for over a decade. As ball hockey has become much more competitive over the years, we understand there is a growing need for reliable sticks that help enhance the quality of player shots and stick handling. Ball hockey players can now purchase the top models of Bauer, CCM, and Warrior Pro Stock sticks for up to 70% off retail prices. Integral Hockey Stick Sales and Repair has now saved hockey players throughout North America in excess of $27 million on stick costs. Integral Hockey's patented repair process is the only repair in the world that brings the stick back to like-new condition, where even ex-NHLers cannot tell the stick was ever broken. Integral Hockey is so confident in their system they offer a lifetime warranty on all repairs. Try it once and you'll never want to pay retail prices ever again.
Alrighty, welcoming to the Commish Chat podcast, Corey Hirsch. Corey is the Director of Hockey Ops at USA Ball Hockey, coach of the USA Men's National Team, coach of the Pittsburgh Gods, Director of Pittsburgh Tier 1, 2 in the Women's. He's playing this year in Pittsburgh Tier 1 for the Pioneers. On top of that, he's a teacher, he's a husband, father of 2. God does it all.
Too much.
Corey, how are we doing?
I'm tired after hearing that list. No, yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me today. I'm actually at my mom's house, which is wild. And I don't get to just sit at my mom's dining room table and talk on the phone or over a computer, like it was back in the day. So yeah, I'm hanging out at my mom's house today. I was doing some housework, and my dad helped me, so I just dropped them off. I'm missing some boys here though. Where's TJ? Where's give me your brother? Where's G? It's just us, man. I mean, I love you, but where's everybody at?
They hung me out to dry. Or maybe it's just the fact that they work a 9 to 5 and they can't make time for this.
Even NSYNC broke up at one point. It's too early for you guys though. What's up?
Nothing, man. Nothing. I mean, we're going to try to keep this as not short as possible, but I mean, we could probably go on for hours and hours about all the stuff we could talk about here, but
yeah, people don't want to hear that.
Oh, they might though. They might.
Let's try. To keep them engaged and awake. Well,
All right,
I
so
had to listen. I had to listen to Wobby's interview, so I stayed awake for it. Let's hope that's my goal here. Is when Wobby listens to this, he stays awake too.
then let's start it off simple,
Yeah.
and then how'd you ball hockey in general? Like, how did you get started with this? How did you get to where you are now?
Just growing up in the inner city of Pittsburgh, we didn't have the funds to play ice. My big cousin played ice hockey. I looked up to him. I would go to his games and go to his practices. I wore his varsity Letterman jacket and considered myself to be named Brian, especially when I met Brian Trottier at the rink one day at the ice hockey rink. And he's like, "Oh, great name." And I'm like, "Thank you," because my cousin's name was Brian, but I never even corrected him to tell him I was Corey. So just always wanted to be him. And the closest I could get to it was playing in a parking lot right next to my mom's house. And all of my neighborhood friends would come down and play. Half of us would be on rollerblades, half of us would be on feet. And then it got to the point where we would play against other neighborhoods, and we were pretty good. We were playing every single day. My dad works a construction type of gig, and never wanted us to lift a finger, which is why I had to have him help me with a home project today. Hence why I'm at my mom's house. And so, we were like, okay, we're kids. We're not going to lift a finger. Then we're going to go play sports, or we're going to play video games. And so, playing hockey was what we all felt we were best at, and loved it. The Penguins helped with that because everyone wanted to be Mario Lemieux back in the day. And then Yager comes along. So we were pretty lucky just to have those guys to watch. I also had two younger brothers. So if I played ice hockey, my two younger brothers would have to play as well. So the cost just added up for a family that was able to walk everywhere, to grocery stores, to playgrounds. And, my aunt's car was available to us on weekends. So my mom and dad, they did a great job of making sure that we had all the essentials, but putting extra costs into a very expensive sport wasn't one thing we needed necessarily, And so we found ways to just play competitively locally, and eventually that just kind of grew to where I graduated out here in the city. In the city of Pittsburgh, there wasn't a freshman division or a U20 division. So once you hit 16, you were too old to play. And my brothers didn't have a coach when I aged out, so I volunteered to coach, and it just I haven't stopped since. I don't think I've taken a year off of coaching since I was 16. I'm 41 now. I got to high school at one point. My mom was like, "Hey, do you want to play ice?" I was like, "Too late. Appreciate you. Love you. I'm going to play basketball." So that's what I wound up playing in high school and a little bit of college ball too. But so yeah, that's my story of ball hockey, and grew up loving the Penguins, and would sneak into Penguin games thanks to my uncle. Would go to Penguin games if my mom and dad were. Probably once a year, they throw some cash at the Penguins, and myself and my brothers would go with my dad. I'd go with my uncle every once in a while, with paid ticket, not sneaking in. But we would go to watch a lot of practices too, and I learned a ton that way. Being able to see what an organized NHL team looked like at practice is now a valuable tool looking back, as well as my high school basketball days and my college basketball days, and seeing how organized sport was supposed to be. I also worked in Parks and Recreation, where I ran youth hockey programs at the age of 18 years old. And so here I am helping out with the country and hoping to organize more youth programs and youth organizations around the country as part of my gig. So that's my hockey background.
I think you're doing a decent job.
We're trying, man. We're trying. We're really trying. A lot of work to do.
How does USA ball hockey come to be? I'm skipping over a lot of things, but I figure we'll get into USA ball hockey first. But I mean, people involved in the NBHL, like it's been involved in the NBHL since day one, but people might not know that it's a relatively new program. So how did we get here? How did USA ball hockey become a thing?
Yeah, there's always been, ASHI, American Street Hockey Institute. I coached, thanks to Mark Madden and Chris Hauser bringing me on board as an assistant after they had won the gold medal in 06. I came on with some of my players in the 08 World Championships. And so I learned a ton working underneath of them, eventually turned into the head coach working for ASHI. And then, as the world knows, it splits into two around 2012. And there's two world organizations, which we thought was just crazy. Not enough players to play the game as it is to have two world organizations. And so I took a step back for a little while, had the opportunity, thanks to Chris Banks and Ricky LePerriere, to come on and work with ASHI again as a 2015 head coach for the Men's World Championships. And the idea behind that was to bring all of the best players in the country together. And if I was allowed to do that without any kind of political talk on it, being involved, and Ricky and Chris were like, absolutely have at it. And everyone bought in, and We had success, lost in the gold medal game to Slovakia. Don't want to talk about it. But it got to be about 2017. I think we got back from the World Championships, and really good people were starting to leave our sport. We're starting to quit our sport. We're getting tired. We're getting gassed. I saw on a youth level the game start to slope a little bit. There weren't a lot of talented teams at the freshman level at the time, and it was very top heavy. And so I had this crazy dream that a lot of people had, that we organized the sport under, I don't want to say a new regime, but a new look, a rebrand, if you would, and make it clean. USA Ball Hockey. You got USA Basketball. You got USA Baseball. You got USA Lacrosse. Why not have USA Ball Hockey? People don't have to ask, what does ASHE mean? What does USDHF mean? What is it? So create a new brand with an elected board, an executive board, which is something that is part of the protocol. It used to be at GASE, which was in charge of overseeing how an Olympic sport becomes. And so we knew what we had to do in this country to fulfill a bunch of boxes that we had to check to be an organized sport. And part of that was having an organized rule book, having a registration process, having certifications for coaches and referees, helping at the grassroots to develop. We also need accountability at the national teams so that we can continue to check all of those boxes to become an Olympic sport. And as I mentioned, an elected board was part of that process, and we felt like it was best to just start clean. And there were some people upset at the time, but now looking back and having still an opportunity to work with those people who were the heads and leaders of the organizations that were at B, I think they're now happy to see where the sport is and to see how it's grown. And they're able to even take a step back and do some other projects and work in other careers that allow us to really put some expertise in place. And with the executive board we have, and with Banks as president, and Tom Ruiz and Alessandra and Mike DeFazio and Don Gregory, and we've got Chris Sperry with an attorney, and Jane Albright as a secretary. And this program was helped to be started by Kornacki, who helped to write bylaws that we needed to be an official nonprofit organization. And so we had a really good team of people. I think there were maybe like 13 or 14 of us on an initial call. Everyone loved the idea. And I'm the type of person too, who when someone says, oh yeah, that sounds great, but it's not going to happen. I like being told that something's not going to happen. It motivates me, right? So countless hours at the computer, countless hours making phone calls, having an opportunity to bid for it with the ISBHF, and then winning the bid, was able to in turn not go back and say, I told you so, but now to really start to show people that this is a real sport and it's really organized, and we've got incredible people in place. And some of those people who originally asked to be a part of the organization that were like, yeah, not yet, we're not sure if this is really going to work, are now a part of the organization, and they're believing in it. And you guys have believed in it since day one. I'll never forget our first couple conversations, and we wouldn't be in the right direction to become an organized sport in the U.S. if it wasn't for programs like leagues like the NBHL and other youth programs out there, and cool hockey events, and New England Ball Hockey believing in a registration process, and having protocol, and having accountability for referees and coaches. And so, yeah, I'm very proud to see where we are now, but we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, it made our lives a lot easier in the transition into the NBHL, just because, we started our league locally. Certifying refs on a national scale was something we didn't come close to having the bandwidth to. I mean, we still don't have that bandwidth. And like, without USA Ball Hockey doing that for us, it would be really complicated. And I remember when we first, made the NBHL, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we were the first league sanctioned by USA Ball Hockey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% were.
Because I remember the initial buy-in, there was definitely some pushback where people were like, why are we doing this? Like, what's the point of this? And I think now more than ever, people are seeing the benefit of USA Ball Hockey. Not that it didn't benefit before. I think it just took a little time for people to kind of realize all of the good that it brings to the sport. And I think there's a lot of detail and a lot of work that goes into it. And I like to think it's appreciated. I'm sure I'm not going to hear a lot of the criticisms with my role at NBHL, but
Yeah, right.
I know at least for us, we appreciate all of it, and I mean, it's come such a long way, and like I don't even like what is the day to day, what is the week to week, like I there's so many things that have to be going on that I can't even like think that are happening behind the scenes, like just what's some insight on what happens
Cool.
at USA Ball Hockey?
Yeah, and I think too, like, you know, we always wanted to have support. That's the most important part. Like, I don't get paid for this. I'm a volunteer. All of us board members are volunteers. So why do we dedicate the extra time at this time? When, I don't know when people are gonna watch this. Almost 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, right? Why are we dedicating our extra time out of our lives to do this? And yeah, it's because we love it, but I also feel like, you know, my teams have been fortunate to have good success, and with that comes a lot of eyes and people asking how you do it, what you've done, what your story is, right? So people start to listen, and so to use that power for good, I think, is what all of us have an obligation to do. And so whether it's provide insurance for players now, or help even national teams have a selection process in place that no one can say one person's picking the team. Sure, there can be rumors that go around, but we all know behind the scenes how that goes. And so to answer just the day to day, I mean, we get emails from leagues asking us to review incidents, to give them documentation. Where can they find leagues around them? We just have one of those persons moving from the Czech. Where can I find the league in Colorado? Right. So we get that on the daily. The grassroots. How can we become a member? We have 2 of those in the waiting right now. I got a conversation coming up with another program in Jersey who wants to be a member of our organization. How do we run clinics? That's something we want to do on a national scale. Talking to Eddie Costa and Johnny Ruiz, guys who are really adamant about going around and running youth clinics. So that goes into a day-to-day. Having marketing, right? So marketing is sport. You guys, that's what caught my attention, how phenomenal EBHL was at just marketing their league and having highlights and clips. So, you know, I get bummed out on a day where we might not have something posted for USA Ball Hockey, right? Maybe because it was a slow week, but or just people were busy because we're all volunteers and couldn't post something that exact day. We just posted something 10 straight days. So making sure the marketing's kept up. And then right now we're working on just next year's teams after having closeouts. I still have a couple closeout meetings with the current staffs that went overseas. And yeah, sure, you're going to hear negative, but for me, I try to stay optimistic as it is as a person. And I think that, as I even told the media team who I met with that just went to the World Championships, I thought they did a gold medal job. I mean, we had like 500 insights or 500,000 insights during the World Championships. That's crazy to have that many eyes on our sport in a week. So kudos to them. But we had a closeout meeting on what we can do to improve. So although people are going to give you negative, I look at it as, is it constructive negative, or is it just people complaining to complain, right? Because you can't always please people. So as long as it's constructive, I'm all about it. And you're going to hear that with the NBHL too. So yeah, on a day to day, man, I think it's a wild thing because it totally could be a full-time gig. Phone's blown up constantly. As I teach for a living. So I have to put my phone away. My wife even knows, you need me, call the school. When that school phone rings, and my heart sinks thinking it's a family emergency, because I know Jess is going to call the school to get a hold of me, because if I have my phone on me, I'm going to be tempted to look at it. And I get to my phone, there's 65 text messages, 150 emails daily, just in the hockey world. It's pretty wild to see how busy it is. But that comes with growth. As we continue to grow, obviously, we're going to continue to need more people to be involved, and I'm going to have to branch myself off. And those are things we're doing right now. Hoping to bring in a youth national director to oversee the general managers, to work with them to answer their questions, so I don't have to do that. So going through our first official World Junior Championships has been eye-opening for us, and things that we need to do to improve. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I just know it's so much time sunk into it. And I think back to when I was living out west and I was in San Francisco, and it's 3 hours behind, and usually by 7 or 8 p.m. on the West Coast, my phone pretty much died down from ball hockey related stuff. And then I'd get a text from you at like 10:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. And I'm like, Corey, go to bed. What are you texting me right now for? And you're like, I got shit to do. Like, I gotta work. And it's just, I hope people see what you put into it, because I know I do, from the amount that you have done for us. And, but yeah, touching up on like the junior stuff, I know watching from afar, like I obviously was on my phone checking. I was watching games. I'd have my iPad set up to the right of me here, and I'd have the game streaming while I was working, and it was fun to watch. But I mean, mine is not getting gold medals. It was pretty successful, but we're just curious on your take on it and what you saw, because you were in the States for it, correct? You weren't overseas for it.
Oh, my wife would kill me. We've got Switzerland next year. I helped to work with the general managers leading up to it. Myself, Melissa Banks. Melissa was working with apparel and our vendors, and 2 and 10 in Bells and Bain, 2 and 10 doing our uniforms, Bells and Bain doing the apparel. So that took a load off my plate. She helped with fundraising, but I helped with the general managers and the coaches, meeting with them to make sure that they had all the preparation that they could possibly have. And until you really get there for the first time, you really don't know what to expect. And so just the noise level alone, I was telling the coaches, you think you're going to lose your voice because a lot of local tournaments, you're shouting a lot of instruction, you're motivating, but it's almost impossible to shout instruction because they're not going to hear you with the noise level that's over there. The crowds are crazy and the atmosphere is just bonkers. So
yeah, they got like the vuvuzelas going.
Yeah,
it is
drums,
like,
and
I had to turn the volume down sometimes. It was like hurting my ears.
Loud PA system. So, I got a text from someone about a day or two after it was all over, and it said, did USA Ball Hockey succeed? And a friend of mine, he texted to me, and I said, I'm a competitor, so if you don't come home with gold medals, it's not what we're looking for, right? So yeah, it can be considered a failure if you don't come home with golds, even silvers. But to come home with a couple bronzes is a big deal, and people need to understand it's really, really hard to win. To see them compete for a gold medal and be in 1-goal games, as many 1-goal games as they were in 2-goal games, I was proud of that. I was proud to see our players never stop competing. As far as growth, there's a lot. I mean, we got feedback in our closeout meetings with all the staff of ways the ISBHF can get better. They crammed 5 events into one weekend and 1 week, and that showed. They never did that before, right? So there were some struggles there from the venue and the locker rooms on through. We heard feedback about all of it. But USA Ball Hockey, I thought, as an organizational standpoint, we've got areas we need to continue to grow in. We're working on those as well, from travel and to apparel. But as far as the play on the rink goes, yeah, we got to get better. I mean, we got to stay out of the penalty box. We have to. It was an issue with the men's team in Laval as well last year, and we got better at it. And how do we do that? Well, staffs in place have to, including me for the men's team, have got to do a really good job of beating it in our heads, discipline, showing examples of penalties that get called and how we can stay out of offensive zone penalties and unnecessary cross checks and unnecessary slashes and holding them accountable. The NBHL does a good job of that with their video review. Unnecessary late hits get penalized. You're now suspended for those, right? So I think seeing some youth organizations maybe do what the NBHL is doing with video review and holding players accountable. I'd like to see maybe even all of our programs, NBHL is now doing it. Thank goodness, but it was revolving door of penalties on all of our teams. And I feel like you give Czechs and the Slovaks power plays and the Canadians power plays, man, they're going bar down. It's hard to kill, even if you're in great position. They get a ball through to you and quick to pounce on rebounds. So yeah, we got to be better in all this areas of special teams, from 6-on-5s to 5-on-4 scenarios, and give feedback to club coaches back home, because that's where the expertise can be taught. So that's what I'm looking forward to most, is seeing if we can learn from these recent mistakes that kept us from winning more medals.
When selecting all these teams, like, it's so many teams, it's so many players, it's people from all over the country. Like, is each team evaluated the same way? Like, is it just tryouts? Is it more than that? Like, yeah, I know the NBHL comes into play a little bit, like watching games. Like, what is the process?
Yeah, we start with finding the proper general manager, the one that we think is going to keep this team the most organized and keep the glue really in place to hold it all together. Someone who's easy to work with, knows the game, knows the people in the game, and then can help to find the right head coach. And for me, then the head coach and the general manager have to really click. And if they do, we're off to a great start. But once that gets put in place, then the staff gets a chance to decide. After scouting, that's typically what happens. They scout the landscape. They scout NBHL games. They talk to league directors. They talk to club team managers and get a head count. Like, hey, who should we look at from your team? We don't want to leave any stone unturned. So what players do deserve a chance to be looked at? I remember having conversations with you for the men's team. We were building for Montreal. Like, You see every game. Your whole staff sees every single game when you're editing these videos for the NBHL. You could probably tell us right now the top 5 players you've seen play this year, right? We'd be crazy not to talk to you guys and find out what's out there. So yeah, we try to do some scouting. Anthony Kornakia probably doesn't want me to put his name out there. He's been scouting for the men's team at all the major club events lately. He's been incognito scouting at them and then providing just feedback of what we think it'll take to find the right IQs, to find the right disciplines, to find the right people we think have good enough speed and can match the style of play that we want. And so scouting's a big deal. And then you narrow that list down and you have some invitational only tryouts. But that's how it really, can happen organically by having our scouts go out there and evaluate and then having them come to an invitation only. Sometimes if the need be an open tryout. And then from there, the staff gets together. They talk about who they feel are top 10, top 12, top 15. Let's lock those right in right away. That way we don't have any overlap. We know who the locks are. Let's get those players locked in right away. We all agree on these. But then the hockey conversation starts with the ones that not everybody sees eye to eye on until they can come to a good agreement. And sometimes one player can take an hour's worth of conversation before they agree to give that person another chance or get on the phone with them and give them a I'm sorry, we're going a different direction phone call, or post separately in an email or something like that. So hopefully that makes sense. Every team is doing it that exact way. And that's part of why I think accountability is important so that not one team goes rogue in the process.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine. I mean, even just getting tryouts together in general have to be complicated because even the players, we all have day jobs. It's tough to spend money and get places. And I mean, there's only so many weekends of life you can dedicate to ball hockey sometimes. I want to play in tournaments and stuff. And then there's, if you want to try out for national teams too, it's another weekend. It's a big expense and it's a lot, but it also shows the passion and the dedication that players have to this sport. People are willing to travel and to do all these things to play for these teams because it is an honor. And I think, seeing what happened with the junior teams and, looking forward to what happens with the Masters teams, it just shows how much of an honor it is to play for these teams and wear red, white, and blue and represent the country. So I think what USA Ball Hockey's done is pretty awesome. I can't thank USA Ball Hockey enough for what they've done for us. And just the beginning, just like us, NBHL, it's just the beginning. We're both pretty new programs and it's just only going to continue to grow and get better from here. I mean, that's the goal, grow the game. And I think USA Ball Hockey's doing it pretty well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that getting a chance to see the world, even getting a chance to see the country. I just saw a picture Joey Delgado posted. Joey Delgado, MVP, records all those NBHL games for you guys, does club championships, and he's going to work the world championships, does Future Stars for us. He's been around this game ever since Cool Hockey really brought him in. So he was at an LA Dodger game last night with his wife. And so you get a chance to just see the country, you get a chance to see the world all because of a sport you love. And I think that a lot of us are lucky and we want to try to bring that to everybody because the relationships you build, the stories you have, the funny stories and the memories that are made off the rink are the ones that will last a lifetime, not just the accomplishments or the disappointments that you let out there on the rink. And I think that's what's great about sports in general, and especially this one.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I guess shifting gears here into NBHL talk. Mm-hmm. Let's get into NBHL Pittsburgh. What do you got? I guess 21 teams across 3 tiers, right? Pittsburgh Tier 1, 2, and women's. Pittsburgh Tier 1, we've got the Imperium. We had Mark Bergamasco on this podcast earlier. I mean, they're probably the most popular team in the NBHL. I've talked about them with people from every division in this entire country. And I mean, let's go division or tier by tier. What's going on in Tier 1? How's it looking? Are there favorites? Do you want to say who they even are? I don't know if you can, because I mean, you're playing in the division, kind of a interesting dynamic. But how's Tier 1 looking this year? I see Showstoppers in first place, and skill level looks as high as ever, as it always is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, as far as favorites go, I think that in playing for Pioneers now, helping to keep that team together and getting a chance to play with guys that I coached for a long time. I'm not the player I at all was, but I have no time to play, no excuses. But my gosh, I was awful the other day in our Windburst, the Warbirds. I think anyone that knows hockey is going to say that it's either going to come down to, they would think it would be either come down to Imperium or Showstoppers, but I have to say that I think that's why you play the game. Warbirds have been in almost every single game they've played this year, and they've been a happy surprise with a good amount of youth players who are playing high level hockey at club travel, national teams with like Brad Boujos and Kenny Caldwell. I mean, those guys are fun to watch as well. Pat Bell and net for them always gives them a chance. You got Battalion, who's Battalion, a bunch of guys that play for Arsenal. They're going to be competitive every time they go out there and play. They seem to always give Imperium fits. So if they run into Imperium in the semifinals, that matchup would be wild to see. I mean, I even thought Battalion had a chance to beat them last year in the semifinals. And then, us knowing the Showstoppers so well, we played them in a 3-1 game recently, trying to figure out a system that could help keep Jordan Albright off the scoreboard, and trying to keep guys like Danny off the scoreboard, and Purse and Krause from Imperium. I mean, I think anyone has a chance if you can try to do a good job of managing and eliminating the top scorers from putting points up, because they're just putting points up every single week. And then at that point, just becomes, how many opportunities you can finish on and how disciplined you're playing. So it's competitive. I hate seeing 6-0 wins, 5-0 wins, 7-0 wins. I think across the country, you're going to see that because, again, it's hard to get every single player on your team to show up every single weekend. But when these games truly do matter come playoffs, you're going to see a lot of what we see in the women's division. The women's division shows up every single week, man. It's a 1-goal game, a 2-goal game every single week. I mean, it's wild to see the parity out of our 4 teams in the women's division. I have no idea who's going to win. Malevolence just got their very first win this weekend, but they've had so many heartbreaking 1-goal losses that it's not even fair to say that they're a 4th place team, because they really, truly have been right there. And again, playoffs come. It'll be fun to see who's able to really stand out player-wise, and which players step up their game to put points on the board for the women. Tier 2, everyone asks every single week, when you moving Militia up, when you moving Bantam up. I mean, if I don't get a message from somebody at NBHL, it's a message from somebody that plays in our league. It's a message from a referee. And, Hal Minford has done a great job with Militia. What they do as an entire unit, what Jim, has done as an entire unit with Bantam leading the way, both of those teams just really, really love each other so much. The camaraderie there, they hang out on weekends, and I think Imperium,
they're best friends.
Yeah, they become they're best friends playing together, and they're serious about it, and they play a great system of hockey. So yeah, right now they're top 2 teams you look at in Tier 2, but like, man, Revenge also has that same vibe, and they're in the way. They're long bodies that work hard. They're going to give a team fits in the playoffs. Magic is another team that everyone's talked about for several years. Maybe if you ask them, are underachieving right now with some robot. But there are so many. You got Mr. Tier 2, we call him, PJ Biagetti for Apocalypse. Just lighten up the scoreboard. If you can keep him off the scoreboard, you have a chance to win. If not, it's been fun parody to see in our city each and every week. It's why Tony Pletz, who helps me out and helps out you guys keep with scorekeeping. He's doing so much more as my assistant here. He's like a kid in a candy store. Every Saturday night, he's like having trouble going to bed like it's Christmas Day the next day. Excited to watch NBHL hockey the next day. So yeah, man, that's kind of where we are in Pittsburgh. I couldn't tell you who's going to win any of those divisions because there just isn't a runaway, I don't think.
And you guys are one of the only divisions we got. Well, I mean, there's a handful of divisions still, but all 3 are still in the regular season here. And I think Tier 1, all the teams make the playoffs, right?
Tier 1, we'll get the 4 teams will make the playoffs in Tier 1.
Oh,
so
is
one,
it 4? Okay.
Yeah, so one team, the 5th place team will be, which puts the good weight on the regular season, right? That's something you guys ask for. And then in Tier 2, we have 11 squads. 8 of them are going to make the playoffs. A good amount have already been eliminated. Now we're coming down to our last couple games. Some teams have 1 game left. I think there's one that has no games left with Revenge. And then the women's as well. All 4 teams will make the playoffs there, and they'll just seed 1 through 4, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 double elimination, or best of 3, I should say, in their semifinals. Yeah, we're coming close. We take a lot of weeks off because of various things. Like we got Mother's Day, we got Father's Day, we've got various tournaments that we have going on that we try not to have teams miss out on, and we want to make sure that so many of our players travel, so it really affects the schedule that way. So many of our players and coaches as well work with youth, and there's a youth tournament every freaking weekend in this city, so it's really, really hard for us to to get a season complete by early August. But we'll have it finished before Labor Day weekend.
As long as they got time to drive to the Milet Cup, that's all that matters.
I want them to get to the Milet Cup. I was really upset last year when some teams talking about, finishing a whole season and not going. And I'm excited that there's chatter this year about teams going to the Milet Cup. They have to. The atmosphere at the Milet Cup is amazing. You guys put on a great show. All the tents, and you've got the food trucks and the competition. But just being able to see somebody from every region is wild, man. It's a dream come true, right? And it's something we talked about a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I've always dreamed of just having every region represented. Seattle Cold Snacks are going this year. I want to see every state represented, which is the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, and it's this year's been even a little bit of a different feel for me. We've had 8 teams qualify now, and teams are pretty much, it seems like they're picking their rosters based on who's going to make it to the Milet Cup. And these 8 teams all have over 90% of their roster committed to coming. Teams, we have 2 San Francisco teams. Both San Francisco teams just won the Bachelors and the Burger Boys in California. And both of those teams have essentially their entire roster flying across the country to come play in this tournament.
Pretty cool.
So it's crazy. It's awesome. It's going to be the best one yet. So yeah, hopefully everybody from Pittsburgh is able to make it too. And
yeah, people here,
who's going to win.
People here are, like those teams I mentioned, Militia and Bantam both had a chance to come out to the Milet Cup. So now their goal is to win the Milet Cup, not even the Pittsburgh division. It's beyond the Pittsburgh division at this point. While there's other teams who are like, let's take this one step at a time. So it's pretty cool. It's amazing to hear this is where our game's at right now, and only going to keep getting bigger and better, because I know a lot of the things that you guys are doing behind the scenes, and I know a lot of the dreams that we have for various levels as a group. We're going to make sure that we work until we see those dreams come true, just like we're watching this one come true.
Oh yeah, and then I guess getting towards the end here, just for you personally, you've been involved with the sport your whole life. If you had to pick one moment, what is your greatest memory, best moment, biggest win, whatever, just your greatest time in this sport? What is that moment?
Oh man. I've been pretty lucky, Ants. I've had a group of guys around me who have committed to coming out every single week to practice and prepare for tournaments, and have just shown up. We had good ball bounces, good calls go our way. You have to have a lot of luck when you have as much of the successes we've been fortunate enough to have. I think about our very first junior national championship. We named our team the Gods because we always lost to Mark Madden's Wizards. And so it was 2006, and we're at a Wendy's. And Tim Tagmeyer says to me, he's like, we don't have captains on our jerseys. You're just either nationally a captain or you're not. It's kind of how our family kind of operates here. You don't put C's on it or A's on it. And so Timmy was, one of the pioneers of our game and our sport here for what we've been able to accomplish in the city. And he says to me at a Wendy's once, after we had just lost to the Wizards in the semifinal, Penn Hills Wizards, now they're transitioned to Arsenal, right? But it was at the time Penn Hills Wizards. And he says, Core, what's the only thing that could beat a wizard? And I was like, I don't know. You got me stumped. And he goes, a God. I was like, that's it. We can't go by Team Pitt anymore. We have to go by Pittsburgh Gods. We named our team that. We wound up playing in the national championship in 2007, and we wound up beating them 3-2. And that just memory, the celebration, the tears, the dads crying and hugging each other was amazing. I'll never forget my first time coaching some of those guys when they were 15, and I had a chance to go to Niagara Falls. We're practicing in the gym. And that same group of guys, Tim Tagmeyer and Steve Wasovich and Matt Abbott and these guys asked me to come and coach this team, the 15-year-olds. And I'm like, I don't know. I was coaching 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Yeah, we could do this. I'll go to Niagara Falls a second time to Chris Hauser's event at the Maple Leaf Cup. Shout out to the Maple Leaf Cup. They just had it. Here's our schedule, boys. We're playing the Blue Devils first, Friday night. And they were like, and I was like, what's wrong with the Blue Devils? This ain't basketball. It's not Duke. We'll be fine. And they're like, no, it's like Hildo and Bobby Hauser and those guys. They don't lose. We lost them 8 or 9-0 when we played them at the Penn Hills regional tournament. I'm like, so what? New game, new breed. And we want to play them Friday night. Also beat them 3-2. And again, you got like phone calls home. They're calling their parents, and their parents are crying. The ones that are there hugging them. We didn't win a game the rest of the weekend. But Bobby Hauser and Hilda will tell you we ruined their undefeated season. So, like, those memories I'll never forget. The bronze medal was just the opportunity to see some of our players sign autographs at World Championships, or memories I'll never forget. The very first one in 2008 in Newfoundland. I think ultimately the silver medal is something I'll always also, be appreciative of, be proud of, and beat myself up over. Just losing in that gold medal game, because it's so damn hard to get back to that gold medal game. That particular game will be one that's etched in my head forever. And so, yeah, a lot of great memories, a lot of character building memories for me. And I think it's also part of the addiction. All of those things are the reason, like, I never really truly want to stop. And until my wife tells me I can't do it anymore. Shout out, Jess. You're a saint. You're an angel. God.
It seems like she is. I don't know how you balance all of it. So we can keep going probably, but
people already stopped listening, Ant. It's just me and you here, buddy.
I think we're already like an hour here. So thanks a lot, Corey. I appreciate the time. Like I said, I know how busy you are, but this has been great, and I'm sure we'll do it again at some point. So thanks for making the time, and good luck the rest of the way, the NBHL and USA Ball Hockey and everything. And I'll probably talk to you in an hour about something.
I love what you do as well. Tell the boys that they missed out, man. They could have been a part of all this fun. Thanks, Ant. Talk to you.
Yep, we'll talk.
Are you guys ready to get bucked up? If you're looking for something to give you the energy, focus, and endurance you need to conquer your next game or workout, then Bucked Up is for you. Bucked Up just released a new line of endurance products perfect for NBHL players and fans alike. Let me just mention a few. Go all out with Bucked Up's new full bore product, which focuses on blood flow and bringing more oxygen to the lungs and muscles. It also has other innovative clinical ingredients which will give you the stamina and power to push through the pain in practice, during workouts, and in games. Bucked Up's long range contains a proper balance of carbohydrates and sodium to refuel your body during your exercise, and Bucked Up IV will also restore the fluids and electrolytes that you sweat out during games. Also, be sure to check out Bucked Up's #1 best-selling pre-workout products to help take your training sessions to the next level. Head over to buckedup.com and use promo code NBHL20 to get 20% off your next order. Once again, that's promo code NBHL20 to get 20% off your next order.
All right, so now we will talk about our predictions that we made in the beginning of the season. A few of them have been accomplished, which is awesome. We should probably start doing more predictions of things that we want to happen. The first one that Gianni had predicted was 11,000 followers on Instagram and a goalie goal, which
2 for 2, baby.
both happened. Yeah, what are we at on followers wise? Like 11.6
or something.
Yeah. So
Also, just
got that.
notably past 2,000 subscribers on YouTube too, so that's another big milestone.
Yes, sir. Hitting all the milestones. And then my prediction was that I would score a goal this year, and this past week I just scored. We kind of went over that, so that felt good to get it off my chest. Wait, I actually have to tell a really funny story about that goal. I forgot to mention earlier. The guy, I was running the snack stand during your guys' game, the Tortugas game, and some little kid came up to me. I still have no idea who he is. And he's like, I'm putting my jersey on to get ready for my game. And he's like, oh, dude, you play with my friend Joe. And I was like, yeah. And he's talking about Jojo Malilo, Caribou defenseman. And I was like, yeah, he's my teammate. And he's like, all right, well, I want you to go out there and make something happen. I was like, all right, I like it. And so I go out to the rink for warm-ups, and I'm shooting around, and he's like, hey, snack stand boy. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, go make something happen. You better score. I was like, okay.
How old is
He's
this
like, I'm
kid?
going to call you. Dude, he's like probably like 6 or 7 or something like that. And I have no idea who he is, but he's next to our bench. And like my teammates are right there just like, geez, like he's really giving it to you. And then I was like, all right, man, I'm going to go out. And then there it is, like first or second shift, I score and I go up to him. I'm like, you see that? I was like, getting in this kid's face. So.
Did you actually?
Yeah, I think I owe it all to him. So I don't know who you are, but I hope you listen to the podcast.
You better be there on Sunday.
Yeah, better be there on Sunday, giving me some help.
We got to get him a signed Janice jersey.
Yeah, maybe I'll give him my last year's jersey, the number 46 retro edition.
You actually should.
But,
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. So that was my story. So that was pretty funny, and it actually worked out. So, and then Ant, your prediction was lowest suspension rate. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I was optimistic on that. We are not at the lowest suspension rate. You guys said to like so the way I mean the math might be flawed on how I calculate this, but I just do like number of suspensions divided by number of players and get a number. And this year we're almost at 70 suspensions on the season, which is our most ever. We do have the most players ever, but our suspension rate is a little higher this year. So not a fun thing. It was actually going to be lower until 2 weeks ago when we had to suspend 14 people from one weekend. That was a chaotic week for me. That was not fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully, there's still a lot of time left. There's going to be more, but hopefully, not that many more. I'd like to not have any more suspensions. So, It is what it is, though. It happens. Game's intense. Hockey's intense, but yeah. Can we make new predictions? I don't want to have that be my prediction. You guys have good ones, and I have bad ones.
New predictions?
Yes.
All right, my new prediction is that next week the Caribou will be moving on to the. Actually, no, it won't be because we're only playing one game. But we're gonna win.
Do you hear that, Hawks? Do you hear that?
Hawks, we're gonna win, and I'm gonna score. And I'm looking at you in the camera. No, it's all in good fun. But no, I'm looking forward to the games, and yeah,
Damn, you get one goal and it goes to your head, Teach.
yeah.
What's yours, Jay?
I'll go. My prediction will be 2 Michigans at the Milet Cup. We're gonna see 2 Michigan. I think last year we had 1 get pulled off. It was more of like the bat in the air type Michigan, but I want to see 2 happen this year.
And the only reason you're saying that is because you don't want to be
I need
the
the
only
heat to get
goalie
taken
that-
off of me. Yeah,
Yeah. You were getting ripped apart on that.
I know people could be I got a lot of remarks about how I kind of like spun around during the Michigan. I was trying to poke the ball through the net away from Steve so that he couldn't pick it up as cleanly. So I just got there so I could poke it away. And unfortunately, it just laid right there for him, and he cleanly swept it up and popped it into the corner.
Didn't Corey text us and give you some?
I got some.
Yeah, give us some flack.
Yeah, some flack from the men's national team coach never feels good. But it's a learning opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
I guess my prediction will be something that's not measurable, so it's going to be right no matter what, and it's that Draftville is going to be the best tournament of all time, besides the Milet Cup. It'll be the second best tournament of all time.
It'll be the best draft tournament of all time.
Yes.
Yes.
That is pretty much impossible to not happen. So, all right. Well, I like that prediction.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. I think that does it, right, boys?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Just make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube for the podcast. Check out our Shopify store. We're selling the hats still. I got one right here. Make sure you buy them. They came out really good. Mine's a little dirty, a little sweaty, but whatever. And make sure you sign up for Draftville Tuesday, August 1st, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Don't be late.
And don't be late or you won't get a spot. And I think that's it. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks for coming in. Why did I just say that? No. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Cut my
be our
first
ending.
outro, Ty, please.
Keep all this in, Ty.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Nice.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming in.